Hello and welcome to Rain's Kitchen and Garden. My name is Rain. Today I'm going to show you how to make this very easy pie crust. You can either make it by hand or you can use a food processor. So let's begin. All right, let's make this pie crust. Now this recipe will make 2 9-inch pie crusts. So you can use it for the bottom of your pie, and if you want to, you can use it for the top of your pie, or you can use it for 2 pies that you don't put a top pastry crust on. That was hard to say. Now, I mentioned in the intro that you could do this by hand. I'm using my food processor today, but I will give you instructions if you're doing it by hand, because for many, many years, I did this by hand until I got my food processor. So in the food processor or in a large bowl, I have 2.5 cups, that's 390 grams of all-purpose flour, and I'm going to add some brown sugar. I have 2 teaspoons or 20 grams, so you can add that to your bowl or to your food processor. And I have some salt. I have 1/2 teaspoon or 4 grams of salt. Again, add that to your large bowl or to your food processor. If you're doing it by hand, now what you want to do is whisk it all together. For me here in the food processor, I'm going to pulse it until it's just combined. Okay, that's all combined. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add our butter. I have a cup of cold cubed butter. That's 225 grams, and my butter is unsalted. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my food processor on the low speed, and I'm going to add the cubes of butter a little bit at a time, because what I'm looking for is what looks like dried peas in flour. And if you're doing this by hand, this is the way I did it for many years. I put some vinyl gloves on and I just added all the butter at the same time, and I would mix and squish and make sure that it was all really, really well incorporated so that it kind of became a shaggy dough. You can't really get the same results by doing it by hand, but you can definitely do it and it tastes amazing. So away I go. Now I'm going to switch it to the high setting because I really, really want it to incorporate very well. Oops, I have a little piece of butter there. Okay, on to the high setting. All right, let's take a look and see what it looks like in there. I still have a few pieces of butter. I'm going to keep going on the high setting. And like I said, if you're doing it by hand, just squish, 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 mix, 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 squish, 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 until it's all really, really well shaggied up and incorporated. I'm just going to open it up, and with my spatula, I'm just going to scrape the sides down just to make sure that all of that flour and butter mixture is well incorporated. I'm going to show you what it looks like, a close-up. I hope I don't shake the camera too much. You see what it looks like in there? If it focuses. Kind of like peas in flour, little peas in flour. That's what we're looking for. Now the last ingredient that we're going to add is ice cold water. I have in my measuring cup here 1/2 cup. That's 125 mils or 10 tablespoons of ice water. I'm going to add the ice water 1 tablespoon at a time until the dough really, really comes together. You may need more, you may need less, but I've always found that 10 works best. That kind of rhymed. 10 tablespoons. And I'm going to keep putting it, I'm going to keep processing it on high. I've put 5 tablespoons in so far. I'm just going to scrape a little bit because I'm seeing some flour at the bottom. It's starting to come together though. Oh wow, it's really sticky. All right, I'm gonna add the last 5 tablespoons and then I'll pour it out onto my surface. I think it's ready. I've put a little flour down on my surface here and I'm going to pour the dough out. There we go. Put that aside. Now what we're going to do is kind of just flatten it out a little bit. Oh, it's so nice and soft. I love this dough. I got this originally, I think, from a Martha Stewart recipe, if that's possible. I changed it up a little bit, but it's the easiest pie crust I have ever made, and it's so perfect when it's cooked. So I'm just going to try to eyeball that and cut it in half. And then I'm going to form it into a disc. And if you're using this right away, you want to make sure that you put it in the fridge for at least an hour, because we've worked the butter quite a bit and we want it to get nice and cold again. Okay, so that's my first disc. Put that aside and I'll just shape the second one. I'm going to be using this to make a nice apple and pear pie. And if you have one portion that's a little smaller, don't worry about it. You can really roll this out nice and thin. So I've got 2 discs here. I'm going to wrap them in cling film. I'm putting them in the fridge because I'm only making my pie tomorrow. So they're going to sit in the fridge overnight. You could leave these in the fridge for 5 days, or you can wrap them really nicely, really well, like wrap them in cling film, then wrap them in foil and put them in a freezer bag. Make sure you label the freezer bag, and you can keep them in the freezer for 2 months. Usually what I do is when I have the food processor out, I make a whole batch of these and I put them in the freezer. Now, when it's time to use them, this is just my tip. I like to blind bake my pie, and I'm going to show you a clip from another video where I'm blind baking it. This is optional, but I find that it lessens the sogginess on the bottom of the pie crust. You can use these for sweet and savory pies. You can use them for quiche. You can use them for fruit pies. It's a very versatile pie crust. So the first thing you want to do is, with a clean pie plate, whichever one you're using, you want to measure out some foil. And I have 2 pieces of foil here. You want to measure it so that the foil goes over the top, over the sides of the top of the pan. And I'll show you why in a minute. You want to do it gently so you don't rip the foil. Okay, so now we have the foil formed inside the pan. We can remove that, put it aside, and we're going to put our pie dough into our pie plate now. So I've put my pastry dough or my pie dough into my plate. I'm just going to poke a few holes into the bottom with a fork. And now we'll put our foil on. Now that's why we prepared it in advance, so that it was ready to go in and it doesn't, mess with the dough too much. It's already formed. Now we have to weigh down the dough so it doesn't puff up. As you can see here, I have something here called pie weights. Now, this is nothing fancy, my friends. These are dried peas. I've had these dried peas for probably 12 years now. Don't throw them out after, because you can reuse them over and over for your pie weights. Now that's going to go into a preheated oven. I've preheated my oven to 425 Fahrenheit. That's 220 Celsius or 7 gas mark. And this is going to go in for 15 minutes. 15 minutes in the oven, and my pie crust is blind baked. Now I did let this cool a little bit because I want to be able to take the pie weights or the peas out to show you. So we're going to carefully pull these out. And as you can see, this is not fully cooked. And that's not what we're looking for. We're blind baking it for 15 minutes just to give it a chance to start cooking. And as I mentioned before, or did I mention it, the crust does shrink a little bit. But that's how you blind bake your pie crust. I hope you enjoyed this video, my friends. And if you did, please like and subscribe. And let me know in the comments what you think of this. Did you make a pie? Let me know what kind of pie you made. I love hearing your comments, and I do reply to all of them. Thank you so much for watching, my friends. There's my pie crust ready for the fridge. I'll see you next time on Rain's Kitchen and Garden. Bye.